It's the boss. Hope you're doing well. Make yourself a hot drink because Intel's released a new firmware BIOS and we're going to see and show you how to do it. I'm going to do it on my 11900K, but we're going to have a look at Jufus from Frame Chasers. Watch his video, he's very good. And he's going to see the new results with the new firmware. So let's get to it. So we're going to update the BIOS. I run an Asus motherboard, so I've jumped on the Asus website. Z590 is for 11900K. Your motherboard's going to be different, of course, for the 13900, 4900. But we're going to go to BIOS and firmware. Download the latest. I've already downloaded it. We need an 8GB USB at least. Now, here we are on the USB. That's what we've downloaded. We want to extract that. So we go extract the content. Now, regarding of which BIOS you do get and for what vendor, Asus says before running the USB BIOS flash tool, please rename the BIOS file to SZ590 cap. So we have a BIOS renamer. This file has been renamed. To use the BIOS flashback, copy SZ590i.cap to the root of USB. Press enter. And now, if we see it, it's changed the name. So I'm going to go off camera, show the BIOS, and we're going to see how to go it. All right, let's go. So here we are in BIOS, but we're also bringing Timmy along this time. Hey guys, how you doing? I'm going to be using the mouse today. So Timmy's going to be doing it. I'm going to be guiding him through it, and I'm going to switch it to a hot view, and then we'll go through it and see what's it about. So it's quite simple. It's not that scary. So we can see, what can we see? We can see BIOS version 1701. Now I believe they were updating it to like a 2302. Let's have a look. So we got BIOS image rollback. We got Asus Easy Flash Utility. That's where we want to go. We're going to find the USB. Where was the USB? So on the USB, it's a 32 gig drive. So we're going to just click on that one. And then we're going to use the keys. And we're going to go, yeah, so 2203. So something like that. Click enter. We're going to go deeper. We got the renamed cap file. So we're going to click on that. Now, I know everything in my BIOS. I don't have to write it down. I want you guys, before you do this, take pictures of things, take pictures of your tunes, your XMP profiles, your fan profiles, take pictures so you know what to resort to if anything happens, right? Do your homework. Please back up your BitLocker recovery key and suspend BitLocker encryption in the operating system before updating your BIOS or the IME firmware. So let's go enter. Do you want to read this file? We sure do. Do you really want to update the BIOS? Make sure there's no cats around, dogs around near your cables. Stable power. You're not doing it in the storm. Because if, for God's sake, anything happens, you can brick the motherboard. Especially if you run a motherboard that hasn't got a backup flash or like a dual BIOS setup. Mine hasn't got a dual BIOS setup. So let's just take the sugar and go. So we'll sit through it. See what it's about. You okay, Timmy? Oh, I'm shaking my pants a little bit, but I believe in you, boss. I believe in you. Thanks, Timmy. At least someone has faith. And give it time as well, yeah? Just let it do its thing. Make yourself a hot drink. Have some lunch. And that's it. Just come back and it should be alright. Fingers crossed though. while we're here, get to know your BIOS. Have a look at the settings. Get familiar. Not just for this CPU or this motherboard, but for the future. So you have an understanding of, you know, what things mean, and oh yeah, I see why we obviously need to fine tune certain settings. And obviously always get, you know, your latest firmware BIOS from your motherboard vendors, you know, the proper website. Don't ever grab something that's third source or something on a forum unless you really know what you're doing and you have trust and faith in whoever's giving those files to you. So it does take a little bit, but we're almost at the halfway mark. We're also going to see what Doofus is doing as well, how he's going with his latest firmware update on the 4900 KS. So that'll probably be a good laugh. Oh, it's almost the end of the race. Here we go. And we did it. So now she's going to restart. Might take a while because it's reconfiguring all the settings. My profile might not be there, my saved profiles. So I might have to retune everything. This is why I said we have to take pictures or write it down in the notes. Just document what is in your settings and for your profile. Here she comes. BIOS is updating. Don't get scared and restart it now. Just let it do its thing. All smooth sailing. BIOS using Thunderbolt new firmware, written so far. Do not shut down or reset the system to prevent system boot up failure. Just let it do its thing. Obviously I have to hold the camera for you guys, but you guys could be making a nice drink. Get outside, enjoy the sunshine, do what you want to do. Image write finished. Looks like we're getting somewhere. Image was updated successful. Please enter setup recovery BIOS settings after setting up Intel Optane memory RAID. Next, you enter UEFI settings menu. Press F1 to continue. Take advantage of Asus optimized performance. So we go F1. So there we go. We're on 2203 now. Let's see if our profiles are still there. They are not. So we're going to have to make a new profile. This is why we wrote everything down, or took pictures. But let's see how many volts we're getting on the auto. Yes, that's not going to determine anything. We're going to have to go back in Windows and have a look. So we'll go back on the main camera and have a look what's going on the auto settings with the new BIOS. And away we go. So here we are back on desktop. Just updated the BIOS. We've got CPU Z up. We've got GPU Z up. We've got Task Manager. See what's happening with the cores and all that sort of good stuff. Going to run a Cinebench. We're going to check the volts. Going to check the temperatures. Here we are in CPU Z. We can check the temperatures. This is what I use. Use what you like. I just like that one. We're going to go the multi-core. Let's go advanced. No. Advanced benchmark. Hit the multi-core. See what she does. We're going to see what she does. It's completely stock. Default. No XMP, no nothing. The 4.8. How's temperatures looking? Temperatures looking nice. Sitting at 1.305 volts. The 4.8, temperature 70, 72. I'm normally locked at 5 gigahertz, all cores, 1.4 volts. That's what I run. I'm on air. I like my PC quiet. The fans are going full knacker right now. This is decent for default settings, I'd say. Low volts. You guys on 13 series and 14 series obviously have to check those volts indefinitely. Most likely tuned. We're going to go for a quick single run. See what that's about. Should see the core clock on one of those cores ramp right up. Yeah, I'm not seeing it on the single core. 1.33 volts. Temperature sitting very conservative, 50 degrees. Wow. But I'm not getting my boost clock. Obviously, that's on the box. I'm fine with that. I don't go by the box settings anyway. I do my own thing. I do my own memory tune, my XMP, of course. I lock my cores. I might go for a 5.1 on this. Seems like it's a lot more stable with lower volt, while I sit at 1.4. But good luck, guys. This is the video to sort of go about it and how to do it. These are the checks you got to run. Jump in the BIOS, of course. Retune things. Always take pictures. Always take notes. Listen to the people you want. Get as most information that you can. And make sure you got a stable power source. You're not updating in the storm. Not updating in the rain. And best of luck. All right. So we're back with the bricks. We didn't brick the motherboard. Thank God. We're going to have a look at Doofus and frame chasers, and then we're going to see what my maximum core clock and frequency and volts were at the very end. So let's get the show going.
1.44, yeah. So it's all the same shit. Okay, here's what they did. So my theory on what they're doing with this, because all the performance is the exact same and the single core boost shit is still there, right? Now, remember how I was talking about power plan before, right? Most people aren't going to run ultimate performance power plan anyway. It's just the first thing that came to mind of what was going on. So I think what Intel is doing here, so if you look at the voltages, the CPU is kind of spending half of its time, even more than that, look at that. It's spending the majority of its time at a safe voltage. So what I think they're doing literally is they're forcing idle states onto the CPU to prolong its lifespan. Because the CPU should never be downclocking with ultimate performance power plan. It should be sitting at 5.9 the entire time, but it's still forcibly downclocking itself. So basically what Intel's goal here with what they did is they're trying to get the CPU to downvolt itself and idle as much as possible to prolong that lifespan, prolong the degradation time, so that when you're out of warranty, it's too late. Which isn't a bad thing overall. It's actually a good thing. Why would you waste power in Windows just chilling doing nothing? It's just, I feel like it's a little deceiving to idle the guy's processor when they're in Windows with a max power plan enabled, by the way. They're in Windows surfing the web, their CPU's idling, and then they're still shoving 1.44 volts into the CPU under gaming workloads, right? Yeah, you know. And as we all know, people that watch hardware content don't play games, so you basically never have to worry about your CPU degrading. Now, if you were a Call of Duty streamer and you were playing Call of Duty 12, 14 hours a day, yeah, you'll just have the same problem as you did before, where it's going to degrade real quick. Here, I'll illustrate this idea with paint, right? So let's say this is, 1 year of life from your CPU, right? Now, let's say this is stock voltage locked at 1.4 volts, right? And it's like this at the top. This is the average voltage that your CPU endured for that 1 year, right? Now, let's say the previous microcode, it's kind of like this. When you're playing games, it comes up to here, and while you're kind of just browsing Windows and idling and stuff, the voltage comes down here. And then let's say you only play games for a few hours a day, and it's like this, and it's like this, and it's like this, right? Etc. Now, the average voltage that your CPU endured for that 1 year, well, now the average is down here, if you catch my drift. Now, with the new microcode, it looks like what Intel is trying to do here is reduce the frequency of how high the voltage stays up here. So it would kind of look like this instead. It's like, whoop, like a quick tiny one, and then get right back down, and then whoop, tiny one, come right back down, right? Whoop, right back down. And what the goal is here is the average voltage of your CPU over the span of that year is now down here. Let me try a different color here. Purple. It's now down here. Essentially extending the life and degradation time of your CPU. The less of these spikes that there are, and the less time that your CPU stays at that high of a voltage, if you zoom out over 2 or 3 years, that's a lot more lifespan. Now, will this stop your CPU from degrading? It doesn't look like it, because it's still shoving 1.4 million volts into it for small bursts of time, right? It's still going to catch up to you over the long haul. You'll be hard pressed to find any CPUs that are 3 or 4 or 5 years old now from either vendor that hasn't degraded with regular use. Will this make your PC run if your CPU is already degraded? No, you can't reverse the damage that's already been done. So you RMA your CPU, you get a new one, you install this microcode, and then it spends so little time at the top that by the time your warranty is up, it should last that long. It's like the smartest idea in order for them to not have a lawsuit and also make the CPUs last just long enough for the warranty period to finish. Okay, so just to check my theory out here to see if it pans out at all, again, just shooting in the dark here, I flashed the 1402 BIOS. This one is the version before the latest microcode that just came out. Now, it seems like Intel was trying to do the same thing here. So check this out. As long as I move my mouse, it doesn't downvolt, right? Then when I stop moving my mouse, it downvolts, but not to the same degree as the new BIOS, right? So the new BIOS will go to like below 1 volt. This one doesn't seem to do that, right? So again, just shooting in the dark here. Let's try the BIOS version before this one and then see what happens with that one. Okay, so I'm back and I flashed the 1301 BIOS. And this one's even crazier. Like this one is sitting at 5.6 gigahertz. Sometimes boosts to 6, sometimes this one's all over the place. I don't even know what's going on with this one. Let's check out the voltage here. Like, what the hell is this? It seems like every single different BIOS version and every single different microcode has a different boosting behavior. This one isn't even boosting down on the voltage. Oh, you guys can't see. Hang on. There you go. Yeah, this one isn't even downclocking itself. But the voltages are safe on this one, though. They're kind of sitting around 1.3, but this one's also not going past 5.6, except for that rare 6 gigahertz. Like, I have no idea what's going on with this BIOS. Okay, so now I'm back on the 1102 BIOS, and this one doesn't downclock the voltage at all. So this one is obeying the ultimate power plan profile. So that's exactly what it was, or that's exactly what Intel was trying to do the whole time. Every single BIOS version and every single microcode update was them trying to perfect the boost algorithm, because the other ones weren't stable. The other ones, I guess, maybe the load lines weren't tuned well enough with the VIDs, so that they would actually crash sometimes randomly. What I'm assuming happened was it would downvolt too far, resulting in a crash of the system. That might actually happen with the new one too. I haven't been playing with it for more than an hour, I want to say. So if you do update with the new microcode and your PC is unstable anyway, it's probably because it's downvolting too far for the CPU. To be frank, honestly, I've tested the 4 different BIOSes in this video, and all of them are complete dog shit. You shouldn't be using any of them. They all shove more than 1.4 volts into this 14900KS. So regardless of what microcode or BIOS version you use, you have to manually tune your system. So the best thing Intel could do without a lawsuit is make your CPU run at less than 1 volt to prolong its lifespan. Just manually tune the system yourself, and don't let boost algorithms dictate your performance or PC stability. You're giving your control away to somebody else. So the recommendation still stands. You need to lock all your cores, find your voltage sweet spot around 1.35, see what clock speed you can achieve at that voltage, lock it all there, and leave it alone. Do not use any of these BIOSes out of the box. Okay, so we're back up here, and we're on 1503. That's the latest beta BIOS from the Asus website. The only difference I can see so far is that the CPU is idling down to like 1.1 volts, even though we're on ultimate performance power plan. See, 1.279, and the CPU is downclocking it. So it's like it like overrode the 1.19. Yeah, it like overrode the. Oh, you know what I think they did? Hang on. I think I know what they did, but let's do the testing first, and I'll reveal it at the end of the video. Okay, so let's start with the exact same XTU test. Start. Clock speed, CPU current throttled. Okay. Downclocked to 5.7 already. 1.43. Yes, the exact same. So it's still going to degrade. Nothing changed. 1.439. It's even worse. Well, we don't even need to do the other tests. Just it's throttling down to 5.7, and it's still spiking to 1.44 volts. So your shit's still going to degrade. Once again, take care of yourself. Tune your machines. Do not let boost algorithms. Look at this shit. Seeing this should make you want to learn how to take care of yourself. Okay, we just finished Rift Breaker. It's basically the exact same. It looks like the FPS is a bit higher. That's just margin of error, guys. Don't worry about that. So we're going to run it one more time, but this time I'm going to reset the voltage logging, and I want to see what voltage it hits while it's actually running the benchmark in the game, right? 1.4. Yeah, so it's still going to degrade over time. That hasn't changed. You can't run 1.4 volts into a stock CPU, right? And this CPU that I'm using here, this 14900KS, is the best bin that I've come across. So you might have one that might be shoving like 1.45 into it right now. You can do this exact same test at home as well. Just launch hardware info, check the voltage while the benchmark's running, and then if it's at 1.375 volts or higher, that's even pretty aggressive. If it's at 1.35 or higher, you got to bring that shit down.
So now I've gone back in the BIOS and I've done my tune. I'm sitting comfortably on 5.1 gigahertz with lower volts. So if we look at the volts, 1.375, give and take. My load line's very good in the Asus board, load line calibration. Sitting 80, what's the maximum? 89 on air, that's really good. 5.1 gigahertz, all the cores. I mean, that's beautiful. I mean, the BIOS for me it's a godsend. Like, that's fantastic. I'm running lower volts, lower temperature, higher core clock. Best of luck. We'll see you next time.